Now, what we're going to talk about today, this is my segment, and I'm going to be playing this. This is part 2 of how to increase your internet speed with modems and routers. And sort of this follows along. You remember last week I played part 1. This is part 2 and sort of follows along a bit about what Bob was talking about. So let's see what I have to say.
You should have a dual band router. If you purchased a router in the last 5 years, then you probably have a dual band router. Now, what do I mean by a dual band? Well, it broadcasts on 2 different frequencies. It uses a 2.4 gigahertz frequency and a 5 gigahertz frequency. So there's 2 frequencies that can broadcast your Wi-Fi on. Now, there's no relationship to 5G. When I talk about 5 gigahertz, I'm talking about a frequency, nothing to do with 5G. Now, you need to know how Wi-Fi signals work. If I have a router at my house and you have a router next door at your house and our Wi-Fi signals are broadcasting, there's obviously going to be some collision. The problem that happens is this: if my signal's going out and it's going by your house, or there's a signal coming in and the 2 collide, my signal says to your signal, "Oh, excuse me," and your signal says, "Excuse me." "Oh, you go." "No, I'll go." "Okay, I'll go." So signals are very polite, but this leads to congestion because the more collisions you have between different modems, the slower your systems will get. This becomes a huge problem with signal strength. If you have a router that you've bought and it's a very powerful router and you're using it for a big house, let's say a 4,000 square foot house, and then you move into a condo, a place where you have a very tiny area to live, and on that particular floor, maybe your condo floor, you have maybe 10 suites, and they all have routers in them. But if you've brought your bad boy router, as we call it, and bring it into your condo, then the signal strength is going to blast across the whole floor and all those people. It's going to lead to congestion, and it's going to lead to collision amongst these radio waves, and this is going to slow everybody's signal down. So that may be an option when you, if you live in a populated condo or apartment, and all of a sudden you notice a degradation in your signal. It could be someone that's brought a bad boy router up and plugged it in, and it's giving a lot of congestion traffic. So that's one of the problems that you may have. Now let's talk about, there's 2 signals. There's the 2.4 gigahertz signal. This is the most commonly used with routers, Internet of Things, hubs, and security cameras. They usually broadcast on the 2.4 gigahertz. It gets fairly good penetration, so it goes through walls, goes through glass, and certainly even people, right? So this is why it's always been used. This is the original Wi-Fi signal, was 2.4 gigahertz. The problem, of course, is since everybody's broadcasting on that one signal, it can lead with a lot of congestion and slowing of traffic. The second broadcast signal is on the 5 gigahertz. And this should really be your choice when you're choosing between the 2, and we'll talk about how to do that in a minute. You should be broadcasting on or receiving on 5 gigahertz. And why is that important? Well, there's less problems with congestion, and it also is much faster. Being a higher frequency, it actually is a much faster signal. However, the problem with it is that it doesn't penetrate walls, glass, and it's usually limited to one room. Now, this is a great advantage if you're in a congested area, such as a condo. If you have a lot of Wi-Fi around you and you're receiving on your 5 gigahertz signal from your router, then that means that you're probably going to not get that much congestion because this signal doesn't go outside your room. So this is the signal you should be using on a dual band router. Now, let's look at the 2 signals that you'll have coming from your router. Now, your SSD Well, your SSD is a unique name that is associated with your router. Now, it might be Netgear 345 or whatever you've named it. Now, in this example I've given you, you'll see that this is called Home 6595. So if you look on your Wi-Fi settings, you'll see that the red arrow points to 2.4. Now, when you're connected, then you would be connected to the slower 2.4 gigahertz. But also, if you look on your network settings for Wi-Fi, you'll also see that the same SSID has a 5 next to it. And this is the same router broadcasting in two different frequencies. One is 2.4 and one is 5. In the example here, the person is connected to the 2.4. To connect to the 5, you would simply move your cursor down and click on the Home 6595-5, and then you would be connected to the 5 gigahertz frequency. So what I want you to do is next time you're at your computer, look at your Wi-Fi settings, look down the list, and I bet you'll find that there's 2 broadcasting frequencies for your SSID. Have a look. And then let's choose the 5 gigahertz because it's going to be faster. Now, what happens if you don't see a 5 gigahertz? Well, there's a number of reasons for that, but there's primarily 3. First of all, you may not have a dual band router, so possibility. The second thing is that your 5 gigahertz band, 5 gigahertz frequency may need to be turned on in your router. Most routers that you purchase come with the 5 gigahertz turned on. Part of the reason, I think, is that most people don't know how to log into their router, so that would cause a huge amount of support calls to the router makers if it wasn't automatically turned on. So most of the time I see with modern routers that you purchase today, the 5 gigahertz will be turned on. So you should see it. Now, if you have a dual band router and it is turned on and you still don't see the 5 gigahertz signal, then it could be that your laptop is very old and doesn't have the 5 gigahertz receiver in it. So in the diagram I've shown here, I've just shown you the router settings, and usually it's just a toggle switch to turn on the 5 gigahertz if you need to switch it on. Now, not to worry, if you have an older laptop and you don't have a 5 gigahertz receiver in there, you can easily add one very cheaply. And this is a USB dual band adapter. This was $22.95 on Amazon. And you can just plug this into the USB port, and it will give you you'll be able to receive a 5 gigahertz signal. These are readily available and not expensive. Now, do all routers broadcast equally? Well, no. Some are more powerful than others, and you can just imagine this particular router and look at all the aerials in it. Amazing. This is a bad boy router. This is a very powerful router, and one that you might consider if you have a very large house. But certainly inconsiderate if you live in a one-bedroom apartment and there's lots of apartments around you. Because if you're going to use this router, then in fact, you're going to be broadcasting a lot of signals and causing a lot of congestion, which again, as we've discussed, is going to slow the system down for everybody. Another reason, by the way, to make sure you don't use Wi-Fi, because if you plug into your router, then this, of course, will not be a problem. Let's talk a little bit about Wi-Fi extenders. We also call these boosters. These are very popular. Many of you always ask me, should I get an extender to help with poor coverage in an area of my house? Now, the Wi-Fi extender extends the range of a Wi-Fi wireless signal from a Wi-Fi router. So it's going to take your existing signal and it's going to extend the range of it. But that's with a cost. So it acts like a bridge between your Wi-Fi router and the Wi-Fi device that you want to connect. So if you have a computer in 2 or 3 rooms over and you can't connect to it, then what it will do is it will take the signal, it will rebroadcast it, and connect it in the other room, the 3 rooms over. So it's using your existing network. And it acts sort of like a wireless access point for your devices to connect to. So it actually has a unique SSID. So it's going to, you're going to have your initial router, which has an SSID. It's going to broadcast to this device. This device has, it's like a second router. It will receive the signal, and then it will have its own SSID, and then it will broadcast to the next device that you want. Now, there's a cost to this, and here's in this diagram, I've showed you exactly how this is going to work. Each time you run your signal through an extender or booster, you're going to reduce the speed by 50%. And the reason for that is because it is it's the law of physics, is that the signal has to come to one device to the other device, and then it's going to be rebroadcast again to the next device. So you're going to find that the signal is will get reduced. So you do not want to use Wi-Fi extenders in combination, or things are going to get very slow. Now, this is exactly opposite to mesh routers. An example of a mesh router is above that, and you'll see there's no loss of signal. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Now, one of the things you should do if you have poor areas of signal in your house is you might want to consider a power line adapter. We can actually send your Wi-Fi signal down the electrical grid in your house. It actually works on your 110-volt wiring. So in this situation, you'll see that your router is connected to a device that's plugged in to an electrical outlet. 3 rooms down where you want to connect your device, you simply plug another device into the electrical outlet, and you can either plug that into the computer or it will broadcast a Wi-Fi signal for you. And so you can actually run a network in your house on your existing electrical wiring that you have in all your rooms. The one thing that it won't do, though, is if you have a circuit breaker panel, it won't cross the circuit breaker panel. So, for example, suppose you had in your house, you had an existing panel, and then you maybe had another office in another building or garage, then it wouldn't be able to go out. There would be another electrical panel with circuit breakers that wouldn't cross that. So there are some limitations, but these are commonly used. They're quite inexpensive. As the example I've given you, the one here is about $74.99 for 2 of them. And this will effectively make it quite easy to get signals to all parts of your house.
All right, we're going to stop it there. The next week, we'll be talking about mesh routers, the ports to plug in your computer, and also Wi-Fi 6, which are really important topics to talk about. And we will be doing that next week for us.
Good morning, friends. I'm Dewey, and my Tech Talk topic for today is a quick and easy way to create a database. Now, if you've ever thought about it, or you'd like to create a database of names and addresses, like for sending out holiday cards, or maybe one that lists the essential information about everyone you know, since, of course, not everyone has Google or smartphone contact lists. Or maybe you've agreed to be the membership secretary for your small club of perhaps 20 or 30 members, or maybe for a large club of several hundred members. Well, anyway, you need to find an easy way to create a database that's quick and easy and very easy to keep up. I have an answer if you own a computer with Microsoft Word. It doesn't matter whether the version of Microsoft Word is old and new. Word's awesome capability includes a quick and easy way to create a database. Dewey, you're full of it. Word is for word processing. You got to use Microsoft Excel or maybe Microsoft Access to do a database. Don't you know? I'm sorry, my friend, but I disagree. And I'm going to show you why in the next several minutes. To create a database in Microsoft Word, you need to go to the table function. Over the years, I found that very few Word users know how to create a database using this table function. And when I searched YouTube on the topic, I was not able to find a single YouTube video that demonstrates what I'm about to show you in the next few minutes. Now, the first step in creating a database is to decide which elements of member information you need at the minimum. Typically, perhaps 5 to 7 information elements are needed, and rarely more than 8 or 9, maybe 10. You know, if you need 102 elements, enjoy Microsoft Excel is all I have to say. For the club I recently joined, I have 6 information categories for the vertical columns and 7 rows for our current membership. And it's very important that I have a header row that shows the name of the information categories. Well, let's first insert a table by going to the ribbon and choosing Insert. So I'll put my cursor here on Insert and open it up. And right there is Table. We can click on that. And notice, very easy, we can just say line out the 6 columns and 8 rows, 7 members plus a header. But that's not really a very good way to do it. And I'm going to show you why. I think it's a lot better to insert a table. Here you put in the number of columns and rows manually. There are defaults, but you change them easily. And the most important thing is right here, it says auto fit behavior. The default is fixed column width, which may be helpful occasionally, but not usually. If you're doing the same number of characters or numbers or something, fine. But auto fit to contents is really a great way to do it. Now, instead of clicking OK, I'm going to click cancel because I already have this pre-format. So here we go. First thing is, there's the name of my club. You always want to give your documents a name. Now, tech nerds, well, we're pretty techie. We don't spell very well. Okay, going on. You're going to have different versions of this as you add members or lose members or people's information change. So every time you make a change, you should have a way of making a new version. Here's what I suggest. I just call the versions by their date. This was created on March 4th. Okay. Next, of course, we put in our basic grid for the 6 columns. It doesn't look very good right now. Pretty skinny, but there are 6 columns. Well, the next thing we're going to do is start adding our header names. And the first one I'm going to put in is the last name. Usually people like to have databases that start with the last name. Occasionally, you have databases with the first name. Now we'll put the first name in and the other ones, home address, city, state, zip. To talk about this for a minute, probably not many of you have seen combining city, state, zip. But if you don't need to differentiate, have separate columns for the different elements, put them all together in one. It saves space, makes it easier. Then, of course, you should have a phone number. I always like to put the word contact because I think that most people will realize they want my cell phone number for easy contact. And lastly, we want email. Now, you notice right away the various categories already are auto-fitting. They're just as wide as they need to be. Well, we're going to enter our first name of my good old Bobby Drude. This is my first fictional friend, and he lives on Nantucket Drive in Janesville, Wisconsin, and there's his email address. So We've got him there. And the next one is Nick Greeno, and we'll just go down the line. And you notice there they all are. The 7 members. I'm the last one. I got 6 fictional friends and myself. And last time I looked, I wasn't terribly fictional. Well, anyway, that's not bad looking at, it's kind of scrunched up. Let's do something about it. I think before we do that, I noticed on the left, the names aren't alphabetized. Can you imagine making up a database list without alphabetization? You got to have it. Microsoft Word provides it. All you do is go over here. Well, first of all, you need to select the column that you want to alphabetize, and you go over right here. This is on the home ribbon. You go over here to A's. You see that AZ with the downward arrow? You click on that, and you get this dialog box. Sort by last name, sort by text. Other options are numbers. Let's see, we're going to sort by membership number, phone number, whatever, or date, whatever. That's anyway, we have it on the default of text. I click OK, and look at what happened. Now we have the alphabetical list of last names, and their information went along with them. To prove it, remember my buddy Robert Drude here on the second line of members, Nantucket Drive, Janesville, Wisconsin. You all remember that. So we now have our list alphabetized. It still kind of looks a little scrunchy to me because white space is really valuable, and I like white space. So what I usually do is add a little bit, and you can go do that by going to layout, and here is spacing. Now, if we have spacing before or after. That means before or after each particular cell. Again, I'm going to, in this case, since I'm going to want to affect the entire database, I'm going to, I got that, I'm going to try it again. Okay, I am going to I've got the whole database selected because I want everything to have space. And so we'll go 6 points above and 6 points below. And take a look at that. Looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Now that's kind of appealing. It's pretty easy to differentiate, to read information and differentiate information. If you want to add some color, that's no problem either. You could, let's say you want to put your header line in color, and you can do that very easily. I think we're going to go to the home page here, and I'm going to do a fill in color. I think, which one is it? It's right. That's the font color. So this must be it. And we'll pick a nice light blue color right here. Oh, that's kind of heavy. We better pick something else. How about let's pick, this is softer. Okay. So there. Well, we've got a little color. There are other ways that you can shade every other row and different things you can do, but I'm kind of running out of time. So I'm going to say, well, that's my Tech Talk story for today. And I'm really sticking with this one, I got to tell you. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a great day.
Does your computer have Bluetooth built in? I'm Hewie Poplock. Today we're going to talk about how to check if your desktop or laptop running Windows, Mac OS, Linux, or Chrome OS has Bluetooth support. Whether you have a desktop or a laptop, you might wonder if your computer has Bluetooth support. Perhaps you want to take advantage of Bluetooth connections but don't want to buy an adapter if your computer already has it built in. I'm going to show you how to find out if your Windows PC, Mac, or Chromebook has Bluetooth built in and what you can do if it doesn't. How to check for built-in Bluetooth on Windows 10. On Windows, you can check a few different places to see if your machine has Bluetooth. The easiest one is in the Settings menu, which you can access using the Win key plus the I key, or by clicking the gear icon on the Start menu. We'll start with the gear menu. Once it's open, go to Devices. Once you do that, you want to go to Bluetooth and other devices. If you see the Bluetooth slider in this menu, your Windows PC is Bluetooth equipped. There's another place you can check for Bluetooth availability in Windows 10. That's the Device Manager. To access it, you can right-click the Start button, which we're going to do in a second, or you can hit the Win key plus X. We're going to right-click on the Start button. We're going to come up to Device Manager and click on it. As soon as we do that, if you'll see Bluetooth here in the list of devices under your computer name, you'll see a Bluetooth entry if your laptop or desktop has Bluetooth. If you don't see this, then your computer doesn't have Bluetooth built in. And you'll see that there are a lot of entries there. How to check for built-in Bluetooth on a Mac. The majority of modern Mac models, both iMacs and MacBooks, have Bluetooth built in. So as long as you're using a current machine, there's a good chance you have Bluetooth. It's easy to confirm this, though. If you see the Bluetooth icon in your Mac's menu bar at the top of your screen, then your Mac is equipped with Bluetooth. In case you don't see this, click the Apple menu in the top left, choose System Preferences, and look for the Bluetooth entry in this menu. If you open the Bluetooth menu and see options for turning on Bluetooth and connecting devices, your Mac has Bluetooth built in. How to check for built-in Bluetooth on Linux. If you're on Linux, open a terminal and run the following command to check for Bluetooth. And it's there on the screen. If this returns some information about hardware, then your computer most likely has Bluetooth. Otherwise, you probably don't have Bluetooth built in. It's a bit more difficult to tell on Linux since the kernel doesn't support some forms of Bluetooth. Try running a search for Bluetooth on your system if you're still not sure. How to check for Bluetooth on a Chromebook. Let's watch this short clip. Go down to the right corner and click. And if you see the Bluetooth logo there, then your system has Bluetooth. Let's see that a little bit larger. Notice the Bluetooth. And then when you click it, it will scan for devices. It takes a few minutes to search. And in this case, it found my headset, which is labeled Y-12. Versions of Bluetooth. Here is a list of the versions. And this is a bit too techy for me, but I wanted to show you this chart, which is Bluetooth 5.0, 5.1, and 5.2 that are all available and the differences. Now, which version of Bluetooth is on my device or on your device? To see which Bluetooth version is on your PC, we'll have to go to the Device Manager. We went to it earlier, but we're going to go to it to a different way by typing in device. And as soon as we get to the word device, it picks it up. We click it and we open up the Device Manager. We showed you this earlier. Click the arrow next to Bluetooth to expand it. And then we want to select the Bluetooth radio listing. Yours might simply be listed as a wireless device. On mine, it says Intel Wireless Bluetooth. I'm going to right mouse click it and click on Properties. When I do, I want to go to the Advanced, and I'm going to look at the firmware version, which is LMP 10.256. The LMP, or Link Manager Protocol listing in the firmware or firmware version area tells us that the LMP version that we that we have on our device. And then we have to find our version number in the table to map the LMP version to its Bluetooth core specification number. That's the highest core specifications your device fully supports. Let's take a look at what that means. On my computer, the LMP was 10. So if we look on our chart, we'll see LMP 10 is the Bluetooth core specification 5.1. On your Chromebook, you can check the Bluetooth version by doing this. And there's a series of instructions, and you'll get a screen similar to what we have. Let's take a look at what that means. You open up the Crush, the Chrome OS developer shell. You type in BT underscore console, and then you type in version. And in this case, it came back at version 5.54. To get out of this, you just type in the word exit. It gets you out of this, and then you close the window. Now, on my Apple iPad Air, this is what I found. And in that case, I am using Bluetooth 4.0. And to get to it, I went into my settings. When I went into my settings, I found the model number, and then I had to go to a website to be able to get that information. I was able to find the model number, and then I searched for the model number. For my iPhone, I typed in iPhone and then the model number and a Bluetooth version, and it brought back the results that I found. And this is running Bluetooth 5.0, and I have an iPhone 8. And this is my iPhone 8 information that has my model number. So here are the features and characteristics of Bluetooth. You can have a lot of different Bluetooth devices. Now, on your computer, on your PC, after checking the above steps, you might have found your computer doesn't have Bluetooth built in. If this is the case, the easiest way to add Bluetooth to your computer is by purchasing a dongle. These adapters are cheap and plug into a USB port to provide Bluetooth support. In most cases, you don't have to configure them, you just plug them in and you can use Bluetooth easily. You can use a Bluetooth speaker. There are some great Bluetooth speakers out there. So this has been Do You Have Bluetooth? I'm Hewie Poplock. Thanks for joining us.